the key things that has come across most of the discussions over the past couple of days when it comes to policy specifically is continuity. We heard about it in the previous discussions when we heard from the chairs and prior to that as well. How are you in your country dealing with the question of continuity of policy and making sure that, for example, those who wish to come and invest in the agriculture sector in Tanzania are not going to find that if there's a change of administration, suddenly there is also a change of policy and laws?
Thank you. The issue of continuity of policies and programs is important in terms of bringing sustainable development. In Tanzania, we are trying to address this issue through having policies and strategies. For example, we have an agricultural policy and we have also the agricultural strategy which we are implementing. Based on that, we have a sector-wide program which we are implementing right now, the Agricultural Sector Development Program. Over and above that, we have also a national resolve which we have declared very recently. As you may recall, our president last year declared Kilimo Kwanza, and we are using that as a national resolve. And we are not going to change even if a new government comes in, because this is a national resolve which we have agreed as a country. And we have legislations which govern various policy frameworks. So that is the way we protect in terms of protecting the policies and strategies which are on the way during the implementation process, even if there is a change of government.
Commissioner, if I can come back to you on the continuity, following up on that point. Tanzania has, as she's indicated, made some efforts in addressing and ensuring that there is continuity of policy. But there are a number of countries on the continent where that is a very real and significant question. We want to have foreign direct investment. We want to encourage people to come to Africa and invest, particularly in agriculture in the context of this forum. But they often find that, you know, the rules change as they go along, and therefore it's riskier for them to make that investment. How would you propose we deal with that continentally?
Well, as I indicated earlier on, the heads of state, when they come together, the heads of state and government, they initiate policies and programs. And for investment, especially on the land, they put in place a land policy, and there are guidelines which detail out the land administration. It detail out the land use. It detail out how foreigners can access land. But what happens at the country level is that, well, this is an issue of a sovereign state. So as you have indicated, the interpretation sometimes is very different. But through education and through interaction, we are looking at how we can now go down to the ground through regional economic communities. Because for Africa, we have building blocks. Regional economic communities are very important. One country alone is not going to sort out an issue. But at the regional level, at continental level, they deal with issues which, and with that group mandate, it impacts on the other heads of state. So at the country level, what is happening, sometimes you find investors investing in biofuels. They are instead, and they are taking prime land. They are investing in flowers, and they are using prime land. So how do we get a win-win situation where a country benefits and also the investor benefits? So the countries now are putting in place, and already many countries have, they are putting in place, they have translated the continental land policy into national policies where there are clear guidelines when investors come, how they can purchase the land, and how can they can ensure that the communities are not deprived. The small-scale farmers, especially, they are not deprived of the land. And this is what I think is happening, but there are some, of course, divergences And those, they are difficult to deal with.
The Deputy Minister from Malawi, I'll come to you because oftentimes Malawi is cited as a very good example of how you can do things right if you have the right policies and you make the right efforts. When it comes to ensuring, I suppose you can say, continuity of policy for you in your country and making sure that the environment continues to be right for investorship. How are you going about doing that?
Thank you so much. Indeed, in Malawi, we are not very different from the rest of African countries where investors have the interest to come and invest in Africa, looking at the abundant resources that we have in Africa. In Malawi, having investors won't be a new thing because we already have some investors there in Malawi. And as my colleagues have already said, that one important thing is to make sure that we put in place conducive policies that will accommodate both the investors as well as the origins of the country, to make sure that nobody loses, nobody complains. So apart from the policies, what we also have in place are the MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding. Because, for example, we wouldn't love to see investors come to Malawi and use Malawi as their farm, and at the end of the day, they get everything back home. So even the banks, they have got an agreement with the investors where we are saying if they are to import whatever to export whatever they are growing, then a certain percentage of the proceeds and as well as the cash has to remain within the country. And also there's an agreement where we are encouraging the investors also to invest in the social services by, assisting the government in constructing of, say, social infrastructures. So apart from that, we also ensure that there is partnership between those investors and the origins of Malawi. In most of the businesses that are taking place now, you find that a certain percentage is the Malawians are also partners of those investments. Right now, for example, we are talking of putting at least 1 million hectares under irrigation in Malawi, and the arrangements we've put in place are that the owners of, the settlers of the land right now under customary land, they will have a certain percentage of that land where they will also be, investing, or they will also be participating in the irrigation activities. And then the other part of the portion of the land will go to the investors. And at a certain point, they will also have a common land where both sides will work as partners on that land to make sure that Malawians are also owning and they are also participating, so that the issues of sustainability are being taken care of in case the investors decide to go.
Okay, I would get really in a lot of trouble if I didn't bring up this issue, considering I have 4 female panelists up here. And that is, yeah, is that for me not getting in trouble? Yes. And that is the question of gender in terms of women and land, in terms of women in agriculture generally, and the support that is available for them, and in some instances that is not available for them, and some solutions in addressing the question of agriculture more broadly and gender. Perhaps I can begin with you, Deputy Minister.
Yes, thank you so much. As I said yesterday, that data it's a fact that women do a lot of, 70–80% of agricultural activities. At the same time, the women, most of the women do not have access to land, or they do not own land in most African countries because of the culture that we are brought in. But one good thing in Malawi is the fact that during the just ended the July National Assembly, we passed one of the bills regarding the inheritance, of which land was one of the aspects that we looked into, so that women can also have ownership on land. So that bill was
Congratulations
put
on that.
specifically to protect the